welcome to another episode of the Herd Main Show. I'm your herd leader, John Wayne.
And I'm your herd mom, Megan.
And today we are taking a return to a classic Nerd Herder original episode. We've talked Clone Wars, we've talked Clone Troopers, we've talked Dark Disciple, and just insanely intense subject matter last week.
Mm-hmm.
So why not do something sillier, funnier, and you might be tempted with the virus, the corona,
the Backstreet Boys reunion,
the COVID out there to take a vacation. And we want you to be safe and smart about where you vacation.
Yeah, don't get tickets.
And so part of that venture is to educate you on the worlds of Star Wars. If you're planning your next vacation, Endor, it seems like a nice place. If you're into nature and mountains and teddy bears, it on the surface seems like it could be a fun trip with the kids.
Yeah, they can braid your hair.
Yeah, but you might not come back with all of the kids if you visit Endor. Don't believe us? Well, stay tuned because today we're going to be talking about 10 ways to die on Endor.
Yeah, and why you should leave maybe some of your favorite kids behind.
This is something where we take a look at a planet, learn a little bit about it, and the ways that you could die if you were to be there. We've talked about the Death Star. We've talked about Tatooine. And so the patrons helped us decide on which one to do next. And Endor happened to be it. And so I'm a woodsy person myself. I do prefer, I relax better. I like the venue of trees and the smell of the woods and whatnot.
Yeah, you're a dryad. I know this.
Yes, I'm a tree man. I'm an Ent. I am Richard Dreyfuss. Or no, that's not him.
That's not Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh gosh, that's horrible. The Hobbits are going to come for me. It's okay.
Try again.
I'll throat punch Elijah Wood if I have to. Gosh darn. I don't know. He's got one of those ridiculous names.
Jonathan Rhys-Davies.
Yes, and he was not favorably in the news recently-ish.
Oh no, what happened?
Well, he's he got caught in a little bit of misogyny.
No.
Just very out there. I say recent. I learned of it recently, maybe in the past couple of months. But it was some interview he did, and he just kind of got a little broiled on whatever the subject matter was and just kind of spoke a little too bluntly. Everybody's susceptible to it, so I can't completely judge his entire life on one angry mistake, but it's definitely
yeah.
But he is an angry short woodsman, so
dude, he's like 6'4".
He is, yes. I'm referencing the dwarf, Megan.
Okay.
Gimli.
Thank you for remembering his name.
Yes. Well, I remember the good characters,
Whoa!
Like everyone but
takes.
Baggins is. So
I will ask you to take that back.
Bilbo can stay.
Thank you. Bilbo the Baggins.
Is
all right.
He's reasonable enough. I mean, he was smart enough to almost deny the adventure, but he wasn't smart enough not to visit Endor. That's worse than the venture of the One Ring is to visit Endor, and we're going to prove it to you. You might be doubting. Yeah. You might think, well, hang on.
It's just a forest.
Return of the Jedi is basically one big PSA on nature versus the machine, and how could it be bad? Well, it's actually pretty bad.
Yeah.
There's the obvious ones, and we're going to come up with some of those. But then there's others where if you really dig into the planet and some of the information about it, you'd find that it's actually more likely to die on Endor than several other planets you could probably think of first. I mean...
Yeah, we're probably going to have an easier or a harder time coming up with 10 Ways to Die on Mustafar than we were.
Right, lava.
Like lava, hot things.
Fleas.
Brotherhood.
Shaman women. No, actually, we can come up with a few.
Yeah. All right. Let's stop before we get there.
Yeah, let's not spoil that one. That one's for the next summer vacay video. But
all right.
Endor. So a little bit about Endor. First of all, and by the way, we're talking about the moon of Endor.
Yes.
When people typically say Endor, that's what everyone's usually talking about. But you would be understandably confused. Because Endor means 5 5 different things.
5.
So the moon, the forest moon, and we'll get to why that's specified, but the forest moon of Endor is what we're talking about. It's one of the many moons orbiting the actual Endor. So first of all is Endor the planet, which I think I didn't write it down, but I think that the Ewoks refer to it as Tana or something like that. They refer to it as something else. But Endor, the planet, so it orbits that. Other moons, and this is what was interesting. If you've ever been like me and wondered, well, why is it the forest moon? And especially after the Rise of Skywalker, where the Endor system, that's Endor number 2, so Endor the planet, Endor the system, the Rise of Skywalker brought Endor system back because one of the other, I'm going to call them planets. The crazy science people will probably judge me for it.
Yeah.
But I consider Pluto a planet. I feel like they're along the lines of dwarf planets that orbit a more reasonably average planet. I think what makes them quote unquote moons is just that they orbit a bigger thing, if that makes sense. Because you don't really you don't see planets orbiting planets usually. So I guess it's the logic of, well, if it's orbiting something, then so and it's weird because normally solar systems, well, I should say solar systems. In Star Wars, they call them systems, but they might not refer to solar systems. They might, in our planetary logic, a system would be defined by what orbits a sun, a star.
Yeah.
So there are several orbiting planets, but they're orbiting the sun. More than likely, because we have the Endor system, we have the Hoth system, we have the Bespin system, it seems like they have a primary planet as the marker of their system.
Yeah.
So to go ahead and jump ahead, there are stars, there are suns in this system, but they're not the center. The planet Endor is. But there are 2 suns. It's interesting how many 2-sun systems there are.
Yeah.
But there's 2 suns, Endor 1 and Endor 2. So again,
okay. How many other Endors are there?
So there's the Endor system, where the Endor planet is, where the moon Endor orbits Endor, and they all are given life-sustaining light by sun Endor 1 and Endor 2.
Okay.
It's ridiculously confusing.
Boba, are you Endor 2?
He's currently indoors.
That was a bad joke.
All that to say, lots of Endor. But I'm going to refer to them as planet. I'm going to refer to it as a planet. Just know that I'm referring to the tiny planet, the moonish planet. But the others are, we have Kefber, which was introduced in The Rise of Skywalker. It's the oceanic planet. So if you obviously remember, that's where the Death Star wreckage was. And it's primarily covered in oceans, very similar to Camino. But obviously there is land, very beachy kind of land. There's also Alfreza. Is how I'm going to pronounce that.
I love Alfreza with pasta.
Right. It was the best DBZ villain. It's primarily made of metal, so I guess
your favorite planet.
Yeah, it's denser material, and so it's primarily covered in metal, which is interesting. Then there's Fintaka, one of the best Toa of the original run. That's a deep-seated reference. There's a lot of Akkas. There's a lot of Akkas and Kas in Bionicle lore.
Okay, thank you for specifically saying what it's from, because I did not catch a single thing you said until you said that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, so Fintaka. Go ahead.
I saw The Secret of the Mask once.
Oh, it's great. I really encourage people to dig into. There's a lot more Bionicle lore, and if you don't know what Bionicles are, first of all, learn your culture your childhood and discover them. They currently do still somewhat exist out there, but they're a brand by Lego, one of the brands that brought Lego back to life, actually. If it weren't for Star Wars and Bionicle, Lego would not be here today, and it's just interesting to learn.
Do yourself a favor and watch the Toys That Made Us episode on Lego, because it is amazing.
So Fintaka, other than just sounding like a really cool bad guy. He went to the other side, baby. Boba's currently trying to hide with his squeaky toy while we record. He knew you were coming for it.
Okay.
Donate to Patreon now to get this good boy his toy back.
It's not getting back to $50 a month.
Is the dark planet. Essentially, it's just the furthest from the suns, it sounds like, and it's just overall just not. It doesn't get a lot of sunlight. Other than that, it seems like the overall makeup of the planet isn't really super specified. A lot of these come from like super duper encyclopedia reference guides, by the way. You can look up more information on those. But there's also goals.
I was gonna say ghouls.
I don't know how to pronounce this one.
It's the spooky planet.
No, it's just the rocky planet. Just a lot of Balboa on that planet. So when they refer to Endor as the forest moon, it's specifically because a lot of the major planetary moons surrounding the planet Endor seem to be of one type of landscape and makeup, which George Lucas is often criticized of. And if you've seen one desert planet, you've seen them all. I do get it to a point, but it also does make sense, since in the Star Wars world, scientifically it wouldn't make sense, but like in the Star Wars narrative, planets are almost like countries or states, or like depending on where you go, just because you're in a certain area doesn't mean it's all going to look the same.
Yeah.
And Star Wars planets just take that to the extreme. An interesting kind of headcanon I had about this is I wonder if, because Endor itself, surprisingly, the planet is a gas giant.
Yes.
So it's really interesting that the primary planet is a gas giant, and it's surrounded by all these other planets that are typically what you'd find on a pretty average Earth-like planet. Yeah. So what if there was sort of a whatever that one singular continent they theorize existed at one point was, like where Endor was a solid planet, but then something happened that launched parts of the planet into space, but an orbit happened to create around the elements. I don't know if that scientifically can happen, but it's just interesting that one of every kind of environment would be surrounding this planet.
It's really cool concepts.
I mean,
yeah,
it's interesting history to think of, you know, and they basically just became their own self-sustained kind of, you know, planetary moons almost. Just interesting. I don't think that's how science works, but since when does Star Wars believe in science?
You want to know some fun space nerd fun fact?
What?
I don't remember which gas giant it is. I think it's Saturn, but Saturn named after the Roman god.
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
Because a lot of astrology actually has existed for thousands of years, up until the days of old. I mean, basically you had two smart people. You had philosophers and astrologists. You had ones that looked inward and ones that looked outward. So one wanted to, all of existence is in yourself and knowing yourself, and the others are like, all existence is in knowing the world and the worlds around us.
It's not flat, we checked.
Yeah. That's actually, it goes back even that far. It's just that the science to prove that the Earth wasn't flat didn't exist at that time. So it was not a very big conversation. But yeah, so Mars in and of itself, Neptune, all of those, they're named after typically Roman gods, which are ripoffs of Greek gods. Anyway, but yes, I've played a God of War. I know what I'm doing.
The fun facts.
That wasn't the fun fact?
No.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's either Saturn or Jupiter. All of the moons surrounding it are named after mistresses of the god.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And when they launched a probe or a satellite to go look at the moons, they named it Juno, which is the name of the wife of the god.
Oh, interesting.
So I read that on Twitter the other day, and it tickled me. I can't remember the name of the planet, though, so it doesn't really matter. I've just essentially been rambling for the last few minutes.
I think Jupiter's the one with the most moons, right?
He's got like
possibly
36.
There's one with, I mean, technically, if you count Saturn's ring, because technically, so I mean, it depends on what you classify as moon.
It took this long for you guys to realize that we're space nerds.
Right. Well, and that's why I said, so like all of the ones I've mentioned, and there are a few more that just weren't as interesting, but I thought I wanted to cover the main beats of the planetary moons that were interesting. But in addition to those, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 9 total that are habitable.
Yeah.
Much like the moon of Endor that we're going to talk about. In addition to that, though, there's 48 other varying moon-sized objects in this Endor system.
Wow.
So it's really weird because all of it could be classified as moons, which it is, but then you've got ones that are habitable, and I feel like if it's habitable, it stops being a moon at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. But yeah, I mean, technically Saturn has the most orbiting objects, clearly. But that's just because it also has just a very strong gravity. And gravity is strongest at the equator. That's why it forms the ring.
That's why the people there are so short.
Probably.
I don't know. I don't
know. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you're being constantly pulled to the ground.
Yeah, I'm from the equator.
So if you live near the equator, you have an excuse. But yes, so that's a little bit of interesting information about this 5 Endor system. Yeah. But we're only talking about one Endor, the one Endor with the one and only murder bears. Hey guys. Everybody has something they love talking about, and if someone loves talking about something, then usually that means there's also someone who wants to hear them talk about that something, and that's why podcasting is so dang popular, and with an app like Anchor, it's easier than ever. Anchor is a free service that has all kinds of different tools that help you both record, edit, and post. You can also get sponsorship, and it helps with all the crazy distribution. So if you want to get on Apple, Anchor can get you there. If you want to get on Spotify, Anchor can get you there. And you can make money. Anchor provides you with ways like this, like what I'm doing right now, to monetize your podcast so that you can get paid for doing what you love. And so I encourage you guys to check out Anchor. If you've got a voice that you want to get out there, I guarantee there's an audience for it. I mean, you're listening to us, aren't you? And we thought no one would ever listen. So get out there, check out Anchor, and then let us know what you end up creating, because we would love to listen along. So you can download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's the Anchor app or anchor.fm to get started on your new podcast. All right, so now that you know a little bit more about the planet, the moon, the system, whatever Endor we happen to be talking about, let's go ahead and talk about some of the ways you can die if you decide to foolishly visit this deceptively beautiful forest world.
Oh, yeah, and something to keep in mind about Endor, the forest moon, it's that it's not all just forests. There are savannas, there are plains, there are varied wildlife about on Endor.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the most common ways that you will probably die on Endor is exposure.
Yes.
Yay.
This is probably the most realistic one.
Yeah. There's 2 suns.
Yeah. If you haven't listened before, we have a mix of both. Obviously, we know you would die this way because it happened.
Yeah.
But then there's also just times where you're just like, hang on, wait a minute. How do they not die? Hence why dehydration is the number one killer on Tatooine.
Yeah, drink your water.
Right, like let's not live there. If you have to farm water, let's just not live there.
Yeah, and not only is there 2 suns, but there is only 8% surface water on
which
Endor,
is really
on
crazy.
The entire moon.
And that's kind of why I had that headcanon again of just like, it seems like all the forests went here, all the water went here,
Mm-hmm.
all the other ore went there, because it's like 8% of water, and Endor is not that huge, but like that's not a lot.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's weird because how does the vegetation live?
Yeah, we're like 80% water here
Yeah.
on Earth. It's a bunch of water. That's probably not accurate.
Like, I know that, 80% counting not only the ocean, but everything in between as well.
Yeah,
so it's
including
like,
people.
Yeah, so it's like, I know that like the trees and whatnot don't live off of the ocean water.
Yeah.
But they clearly have a source.
Yeah.
unless it just rains a lot like the rainforest does. But even the rainforest has a lot of like I guess rivers.
Yeah, it has a lot of creeks.
No, that's in the country.
Yes, they would be streams and runoff.
Yeah, streams and rivers and whatnot. So even they have a source of life.
Yeah,
so
in the south it's a creek.
Unless it's just one really big, juicy pond, like I don't know, but it does raise an interesting question. So.
Yeah. The environment and terrain mostly are wooded areas and mountainous areas. So it's sounding a lot like Tennessee at this point. It's very likely it's a very likely possibility for humans to get lost up in mountains and die of exposure.
Yeah.
Like, do you have any idea how many bodies are on the side of Mount Everest?
Yes, because you told me
I tell you every day.
Yeah.
Practically, because it's
so
wild.
for context, in case you don't know, like that's a term used, but checking if there's ice. Exposure essentially means that you're exposed to harsh elements of one extreme or the other, either hot or cold. But basically, you've been exposed for so long that it either becomes gruesome or fatal. Like, frostbite is a cause of exposure.
Yeah.
Dying by the door side in cold ice water is a cause of exposure. Jack, let go. It's just, it happens. Dying of dehydration in the desert. You can also, I want to say, even just from direct sunlight, just over abundance of UV can be bad for you. So, like, basically, you've just been out in the elements so long that you literally can't live anymore.
Oh, yeah. And for a little bit of perspective of stats on exposure, a study of 40 U.S. major cities from 1975 to 2005 recorded nearly 1,300 deaths a year from exposure to high and low temperatures. And those are cities with resources and shelter. Imagine the numbers on this planet.
Well, I mean, that's not even the whole planet Earth.
Yeah. That's not anywhere near Australia.
And it's not to say you can't die just because you live in the city. Many homeless actually die. I think last year it was reported about 70 or so people died from the homeless population due to exposure to coldness. Not to be bleak, but that's real. That's a real threat.
Yeah.
Exposure is very real, regardless of where you live. But clearly, 74 homeless folks in the city compared to thousands if they were just out in the wild, you would see a big difference, and you would usually say, well, it's because there's no shelter out there. There's no clean water. There's no this. There's no that.
Yeah. The stats in national parks must be wild.
Right. Well, and then, in countries where like there's major deserts, or in like South America where there's large forests to get lost in and all this other stuff. Like, so basically take all of that and put it on a planet. So, like, more realistic stats would be how many people die of exposure from getting lost in the rainforest.
Yeah.
And
even in the Arizona desert.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, there's areas in the U.S. that are so near densely wooded areas that's enough, and that's from things like mountain lions and coyotes and the like.
You take very bleak.
Well, it's 10 ways to die on a planet full of Care Bears. What do you expect? But like, it's just like put in a scenario with actually dangerous animals in a place where there's no rest stop. Like, it's very likely you'll just die from being there.
There's trees.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty, but like, you're definitely very likely to just die from just being there for too long.
Yet again, I say Tennessee.
Right. I mean,
that's why I left.
Good points for the Empire to think to use such a, far and away and not necessarily uninhabitable, but like you have to be born and bred for this environment. Like those that thrive there live there. People that aren't used to that sort of environment would not do well at all.
Like Florida.
Right, exactly. You can visit every now and then, but don't live there.
No, you'll become an alligator.
Anyway, So the very real way to die there. But as far as outside influences, so not just nature itself trying to kill you, but actually what lives there has to be number 9, the obvious murder bears.
Murder bears, aka Ewoks.
Yeah, I mean, you could have, okay, we could have waited and made that number 1 and been, haha, of course. I mean, this isn't really a rating. It's more so, it's 10 ways to die.
Yeah.
So it's not in any particular order. So there's no reason to put it as number 1. And since you already knew it was coming.
Right.
But the primary population of Endor is Ewoks. And how much is the population again? It's like
50 million.
Yeah, it's in the millions.
Yeah.
And I mean, primarily Ewoks, but there's 2 other major sentient species there. But by and
large, we'll
like,
get to.
Like, that's still a lot. That's a lot. Especially for being just a forest planet. Like, it's so crazy. So, but Ewoks, you might be forgiven for confusing them with Care Bears and thinking that, oh, they're just nature's warriors, and they're
so cute.
No, they eat people. They were almost going to eat our heroes. They are violent, they are deadly, and you should be afraid. Ewoks, a little bit about them. They are sentient humanoids. I guess so, if that means they walk on 2 feet.
Okay, look, if you don't shave for a while, you start looking like an Ewok, so I can understand.
I'm not that short, thank you. I look like a Wookiee.
You are a Wookiee.
Known for their surprising survival skills despite their diminutive stature. I mean, I guess so, living on a world like this, you have to be pretty skilled to survive. They are covered in fur from head to toe, which...
Every Lustan Chukmi is covered with hair.
Right. And they must have an interesting bio design to cool themselves off, because it has to be hot. They should not be mistaken for cute, okay? A fully grown Ewok is strong enough to overpower a combat-trained human. Like, these murder bears, okay? We're not just saying that to be cute. They are murder bears. The Ewoks are deeply spiritual people, though. And so this is the thing. They are, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this later on, but they are sentient.
Yes.
They are not just, like, you can understandably think that by, oh, they just make noises, and it's like if, dogs had opposable thumbs or something. Like, you just expect, like, okay, if they were a little bit smarter, a little bit more evolved, that could work out. Dogs would have a society. But no, like, they're
sentient.
They are fully sentient. They have a full culture and lore and religion and all of that.
Yeah.
So they're deeply spiritual, holding many rituals and festivals with music and celebration. They make wine, by the way. There's actually a competition between the Ewoks and, I want to say, oh gosh.
The Duloks?
No, there's another one. The lead singer of Jabba's band in Return of the Jedi is one of these species. I think it's like Yuzu or something like that. But they're native to Endor as well.
Huh.
There's like this competition to see who can make the best wine between the 2 species.
And you got to think, like, they're not making much because they're low to the ground. You don't have to drink as much.
Oh gosh, yeah, like 1 shot and they're out. Each community is built on a hierarchy with a chief and council of elders. They have a council.
Yeah.
There's a murder bear council, Megan. The most senior members claim the most ornate huts. Despite their isolated and primitive way of life, Ewoks engage in political and artistic pursuits and communicate in their native language of Ewokese.
Clever.
Like, holy cow, it's really interesting.
And it just goes to show that spirituality and primitiveness is not necessarily the lack of civilization.
Exactly. Like that. Exactly.
Just because someone else's civilization looks different than yours doesn't mean that they're savages.
Exactly.
Pocahontas.
Well, and I mean, that's kind of on point for a little bit of the inspiration that clearly went into the making of the Ewoks and whatnot.
Yeah.
Big praise for not making it super on the nose, but it's still clearly meant to represent a much more in touch with nature, species, and whatnot. And so you would think that, okay, that doesn't sound too bad. They're like humans, right? And they can't be that violent. Humans are very violent.
Incredibly so.
So even then, they're very powerful. Clearly, they hunt regularly, and they don't really discriminate. They were going to eat Han and Luke and Chewie and them. Like, they are dangerous and should be treated as such.
Because you got to think, they're being invaded.
Right.
Like, by multiple parties at this point.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, like, more than likely, they lump everybody that's not Ewoks into one group of, they're not us, so they're out to get us.
They're naked boys.
Yeah. The weird shaved ones. So you can't take, even for all of their goodness and interestingness, you can't take the murder bears lightly. You have to take into account the dangers of the murder bears, because I would still be careful around a bear cub the same way I'd still be careful around a baby alligator. Like, I don't care if it's small and babyish, I'm still not messing with it.
I'd be worried around a toddler. Those things can hit.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if it's not going to absolutely kill you, it's going to maim you for sure.
They got sharp little teeth.
They not so much sharp teeth, but they make up for it with their tools and their weapons, their daggers. That, like, they and most of their stuff is made with, like, teeth. Like, the tops of their spears and knives are made out of teeth of certain species we'll mention later. So they kill things that are big enough to have a tooth that you could stab someone with. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. It's crazy.
Solid rough.
So Ewoks, very dangerous. Do not take them lightly if you are visiting this summer or fall to Endor. And along with this, goodness gracious, I lost my spot.
You lost your spot?
I did.
Do you want me to take the next one?
Sure.
All right, so speaking of Ewoks and their huts and their nice...
okay. There you go. Go ahead.
We were talking about this when we were coming up for ideas, and I was just like, this is not OSHA.
This is the most true to the series number. Like, it started, again, and if you've listened long enough, you'll be bored of this explanation, but it was born out of Star Wars OSHA violations.
We just need to go through and just citation. It's everywhere.
That evolved into 10 Ways to Die, but there's a bit of the original design in it for sure.
Yeah, the beautiful houses of the Ewoks, which are made how?
Huh?
How are they made, John? You have the book.
Well, I don't know if it says about how, but they were built high up in the trees of Endor, thatched huts connected by a series of rope ladders, bridges, and vines provide housing and social gathering spaces. The huts are traditionally homely, with a fire in the middle for cooking and warmth, and during the summer month, some Ewoks stay in fishing villages on the forest floor, making it easier to collect supplies in storerooms.
Yeah, so these are way, way up in huge trees, like thousands of feet tall.
Yeah, it's, it's pretty well shown off in Return of the Jedi, that they basically have, like, the child's ideal treehouse set up.
And if you're like me and didn't realize in that scene that they are up in the trees.
Yeah, they're way up there.
Yeah. There's it's not a cross-section book, but it's one of the early Ultimate guides. It's like 2005.
Yeah, it kind of is a cross-section book. It's in that same series, but it's a complete locations book back when they thought it was complete.
Yeah.
And some of the village spaces, some of the bases do have cross-sections to them. If you're really nerdy and want to know where Grand Moff Tarkin's barracks are, or what the room in the Mustafar battle is used for, or, like, literally everything's designated down to the closet. I mean, it's really, really well done. Beautiful art. It's a part of the Amazing Cross Sections Star Wars book series. But the Complete Locations book is highly recommended.
Specifically, the 2005 one is the one that we're talking about, not the later 2016 one.
Yeah, there's another one that came out, I want to say after The Force Awakens. It does have some of the originals, but it essentially has the Force Awakens ones. Yeah. It's basically an amendment of Sorry, it wasn't complete when we did the last one.
Yeah.
And they've just been doing that every year since.
That's okay. But anyway, so a common theme in Star Wars is a lack of railing.
Yes.
There are railings in this treehouse, in these connected tree places.
Right.
But Ewoks are like 4 feet tall.
Yeah, so back to referencing the scene you're talking about. There are rails in that scene.
Yes.
And like Leia and Luke are essentially on a very traditional treehouse balcony.
Yeah.
Why would the Ewoks make railing that goes above their heads? Like, that's just so first of all,
for visitors.
So here's the thing. This is dangerous, and this is a way to die whether you're native to Endor or a visitor. If you're a visitor, in most cases, you might be lucky and find railing that suits you. But by and large, you probably won't, because these tree houses weren't made for you.
No.
Which basically means everything's a trip hazard.
So if you're going to stay in one of the huts up in the sky.
Right. Which, first of all, how do you fit? Because again, there's not a lot of ceiling clearance. Now, in the case that you do happen upon during your visits and befriend the Ewoks, and you find a nice little balcony place to sit, don't let the Ewoks get too close, because the railing does them no good. So they'll just walk right off. And there's baby Ewoks there, man. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm just saying, in the reality of the world, this is why OSHA exists. Get your railings checked.
And these tree houses are not handicap accessible.
No, exactly. Okay. Well, and then what's really weird is, like, thanks to Battlefront, I don't know if it's exactly described either in the book we've talked about or elsewhere, but in Battlefront, when you play Ewok Hunt, it's very clear. You basically walk up to certain trees, and it's like a ladder inside that tree.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's very cool, but it's also, like, that's a lot of ladder. That's hundreds of feet of ladder. So you've got to be physically prepared for that. Otherwise, you will slip, you will fall, and you will die in a tree trunk. Mm-hmm. That's sad. Like, you can do better. Come on. Go get eaten by a fish on Naboo or something. Like, falling down a ladder in a Star Wars. Come on. So, yes, tree houses of horror is what we would reference this to. So beware the trees. Beware the trees. That'll come back later, too.
Yes, they will.
The other one, and if you can't tell, we're kind of on a Ewok related. So if the Ewoks don't get you, then something they've done will. Yes. Whether that be their homes, or in this case, the traps and snares that they set.
They're booby traps.
They are booby traps. They are boobalooby traps, and we don't mean bras. These are dangerous.
Stop it.
No, so again, if the Ewoks don't get you, if their tree houses don't get you, they are very, very prepared people. They're like the Boy Scouts of the Murder Bear verse. And for many reasons, they have traps and snares and whatnot set up, whether that be for certain other dangerous species or for just protecting the village in general. I mean, if you're high up and someone's coming at you, you don't want them to get up the ladder before you find out about them. You want to get them, you want to find them on the ground.
Yeah.
So now, and that's interesting because it goes on to explain, well, all these traps they had set up in Return of the Jedi, what the heck, how they probably already had them set up. And in fact, Battlefield Stories, I think that's the title. There's one that's basically this military recount of all the major battles of Star Wars. It said that they'd actually been preparing to attack the Empire for months since they arrived. And so they'd been setting those up for a while. And then when the rebels arrived, they planned to use the traps on them as well. So
yeah,
they're very tactical. They are like, just freaking, oh gosh, what's his name?
MacGyver?
No, John something from Commando. That one Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
The mother of John Connor.
I can't remember. It's like some
John
ridiculous.
Commando.
No, it's not John Commando. It's like some ridiculous like it's like Duke Nukem kind of like ridiculous name. I don't know, but don't talk to his friend. He's dead tired.
John.
So just a rundown of some of the traps that you can run into on Endor. There's the classic log fall. Mm-hmm. So this is where just plethora of logs are set up at the top of a hill. There's a little snare. Once you trip that snare, all these logs come rolling at you. It sounds like a very simple thing, but logs are big.
Logs are very big.
Logs are big, dude. I wouldn't want to get hit with one of those. Either it's going to hurt you or it's going to kill you.
This has been a PSA. Logs are big.
Logs are big.
G.I. Joe.
Catapults launching rocks at you.
Yeah.
Rocks do hurt. If you've got skin, it's not good for you.
And if you don't have skin, how?
Right.
Are you okay?
Tree crusher. So two giant logs set up in the trees. It's almost guillotine-ish in how it comes down. Although I will say it was set up for ATSTs. So I guess if you're not in the trees, it's fine.
Which makes you think that's huge. Those are two huge logs because ATSTs are huge.
More than likely they team build it. They work together. I mean, you can accomplish a lot working together. That'll preach.
The more you know.
Right. They have hang gliders. Not much of a trap or snare, but they do basically deliver death from above by dropping rocks. Yeah. And if you haven't seen Lord of the Flies, rocks on your head hurt and are fatal. Don't read that book. Don't watch that movie. Just save yourself. But know that rock's bad.
Rock's bad. Get the conch.
Net traps, so you can commonly get just snared, and then they'll just poke you with their sticks till you just stop wiggling. And tripwire. This can cause many an issue. I mean, especially if you're on a speeder bike, get caught in one of those, and the tree's not letting go, bud.
Do you realize that a lot of these are just like saw traps?
Right, yes. So Ewoks are jigsaw confirmed. Don't mess with them. Another reason why you should not visit Endor.
A couple are actually saw traps.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Insane.
So yes, they're murderous, meticulous tacticians of death, and they will definitely either get you with their grimy paws and sticks, or they will get you with rocks from the sky or logs from the wind. I don't know. I ran out of analogies for that one.
You know what's good for that?
What's that?
The next one.
Yes.
Because I don't know anything about this. Okay, so I see this on the list, and I'm like...
Yeah, I knew I was going to do this one, so I didn't bother giving a lot of context.
Yeah.
What does it say?
The note is, think Star Wars Fern Gully, which is a movie that I watched a lot as a child.
Oh my gosh, yes, I love Fern Gully. Very similar vibes to this one.
Yeah.
This is number 6, and that is Wisties.
Wisties.
Nerds of the Endor verse will recognize these, especially if you've actually come to Battlefront recently.
Yeah, the Endor cinematic universe.
Yeah. Wisties are basically like forest sprites. They're fairies. They're alive. It's really weird. They have this like mutual relationship with the Ewoks because their thing is protect the forest, and they kind of recognize the Ewoks are the protectors of the forest. So they're like, hey, put me and my bros in your bag and then just throw us at people when you want us to burn them alive.
If you had a chance to change your fate.
I get wanting to help and everything, but they just sit in a pouch until they're needed. And when they're needed, then they burn you alive.
As do I. Let's be real.
These are real. These are dangerous. I've been killed by many a Wisty during Ewok hunt. This is a tried and true way to kill your stormtroopers. It's just bad. It's just like the angriest Tinkerbell. Yes. Yeah. And they don't discriminate. So again, I mean, if they think you're a threat, they're going to throw a pouch at you, and you better run because otherwise you're going to spontaneously combust. So Wisties, beware the Wisties. All right, so we are halfway through, as if we haven't covered enough reasons to not visit Endor and to not take... this is why, if you have a problem with Return of the Jedi because of the cute Ewoks, hopefully this changes your mind, and you will fear the Ewoks, as you should, because they are scary. They will kill you.
Just replace the music in the Endor scenes with the song Teddy Bear Picnic, and just play it
I have no idea what that is.
You will. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean, it's as dangerous as watching a Teddy Ruxpin commercial. So, just give Return of the Jedi its respect. Give the Ewoks their respect, because otherwise, they will eat your face.
I had fully removed Teddy Ruxpin from my brain.
You're welcome.
And then you put him back in there like a child putting a tape into the back of Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the game, man.
I'm not going to acknowledge that.
Somebody out there is just angry now.
It just smells like Updog in here.
So moving on. Now we're moving away from the murder bears themselves and their interactions with the world around them and why they are dangerous. But not only that, but the visiting Endor is dangerous for the Ewoks as well. Because not everybody is there to work on their tan or to catch some fish with Junior. There are some bad mamma jammas visiting Endor, apparently. This was interesting to me. Even the murder bears have enemies.
Murder other things.
Yeah, the bear murderers. So whether, and this is interesting, it makes sense. So after the war, especially, salvaging all of the equipment from the leftovers of the Empire. I mean, you've got an abandoned base. You've got, just regular scrap just flown about. Like, you've got a lot of stuff that's valuable. But being someone strange to the forest and coming to the forest, obviously the Ewoks would probably want to defend that. Well, that's no good news for them because raiders only care about their profit.
Yep.
Worse yet than the guys just coming to pick up the scrap and don't dare get in their way. But you've also got raiders that come specifically there to hunt Ewoks.
Yes.
And turn them into jerky.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That would be gamey, I would imagine, and a little bit hairy.
Also kind of probably illegal and immoral.
Likely. It's like Trandoshans with Ewok or with Wookiees.
Yes, but like that's built into their culture, and you can understand, and they know they're committing murder.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no shyness about it. There's no confusion about it. That's full on. No, we're bad, but we're proving our worth by killing them. This is another thing in that, like, again, like Ewoks can be lumped in of, they're just slightly smarter than average bears, but in reality, they are a fully developed race.
They're going to steal your picnic basket.
Right. Like it's very problematic that people would not only kill Ewoks, but then eat them.
Yeah.
It's just, well, but those are on par with pigeons and chickens, though. Like, they aren't sentient.
Pigeons have a society. You just haven't figured it out yet.
Right.
Birds aren't real.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you make the leap from eating animals to eating people. I mean, yes, these people look like animals, but they are, for all intents and purposes, because they are sentient people.
Yeah, slow down, Dahmer.
I mean, it's like, Transformers are machines. We can just take those apart. No, they're alive. Probably shouldn't do that. That's murder. Like, it's just like that's where sentience comes in handy.
Could you eat a Transformer?
I mean, probably somebody can. You can definitely melt them down.
It's like that guy who took apart a car and ate it piece by piece. Have you ever heard that story?
Yes.
Yeah, that happened.
I mean, you can do anything you set your mind to, including making Ewok jerky, apparently.
You can do all things through wanting to eat a car that strengthens you.
Yes. So, yes, definitely watch out for the raiders if you're visiting, or if you happen to be an Ewok. Yub nub, my bro. Watch out for the raiders. Protect your chicken nuggets. So, moving on from that, again, a danger not only to anyone that visits, but also the Ewoks themselves.
Yes.
Are the uglier murder bears.
Yes.
The bigger and badderer murder bears.
Yeah, if you read last year's Tales from Vader's Castle.
Oh my gosh.
It was so good.
I want to say it's like the fourth one. It's later in the series.
It's a Wicker Man parody.
Dude, it's amazing. It basically is an Ewok horror story, but not the Ewoks. It's what the Ewoks are afraid of.
Yes.
And that is the Gorax. I love the Gorax. I love the idea of the Gorax. I've mentioned before, I grew up watching the Ewok movie, and I do remember, like, as a kid watching that, it was a fun movie, and I remember the fantasy and awe of when they beat the Gorax. Mm-hmm. It's really cool. I love...
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
You have the same relationship with the Ewok movie as I have with the Super Mario Brothers movie. It's full nostalgia goggles.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you it's a bad movie, but I did enjoy it growing up, for sure. And so for the Gorax to be canon and having appeared in multiple media now, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Because the concept of the Gorax is actually scary. It's basically like Sasquatch kind of thing. It's like huge rabid Sasquatch, but it's not just huge in Ewok size. It's bigger than humans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are very big. I would probably say about 12 or so foot tall has to be. So they're bigger than even humans. So like Ewoks are bite-sized snacks to these guys. So the Goraxes are giant predators who live in the mountains on the forest moon. They are rarely seen and only leave their habitats specifically to attack Ewok villages for food. Mm-hmm. So they live on a diet of Ewok. They grow to mammoth sizes and have highly sensitive hearing and sharp teeth, perfect for hunting tiny furry creatures. But the Ewok have good lines of defense, and they keep close watch for marauding Goraxes through the night and set up traps ideal for bringing them down. So the traps we mentioned earlier are specific. Like the reason the tree trunks are so big, the reason the traps are so high up, the reason they're so lethal is because they aren't meant for humans and Imperials. They're meant for Goraxes. But just think, if they can kill a Gorax, they can definitely kill you.
Yeah, do yourself a favor and look up on Wikipedia or anywhere you consume your Star Wars a picture of a Gorax.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, that's Sasquatch.
Oh, yeah, full on.
That's my purse. I don't know you. Which is what I think of every time I hear the word Sasquatch for some reason.
In addition to that, less dangerous, I'd say, but also worrisome is Dulocs. Dulocs are another species of sort of bearish, like weird foresty creature.
They look like Grinches.
They look like hairy Who's.
Yeah. When the Grinch's Tumbercella got lost, that's who he was going to.
Right.
Was the Dulocs.
And so they basically just run amok. They're also sentient species, but they're human-sized, green fur, and just nasty dudes. Mm-hmm. And so both of these are common threats to the Ewoks themselves. And if they're threats to the Ewoks, they're threats to you because, again, you're just a naked Ewok to these people.
Why'd you point at me when you said that?
Like, just humans in general.
I know I'm short, but I'm not like Ewok-sized.
You're not Ewok-sized. So, yes, but definitely do yourself a favor, read the Tales from Vader's Castle comics. I think the fourth one is the Ewok one. It's totally worth it. It's based on Star Wars horror.
Yeah. If you like Reanimator, if you like Frankenstein.
Well, that's more from the second one, but
yes, still very good.
Yeah.
If you like Dracula,
you've got Dracula, you've got rabid Sarlacc, yes. You've got Frankenstein, the son of Tarkin. You've got so good. Oh my gosh, it's so many good stories. Good. And if you need to be afraid of Goraxes, definitely read that. It's also beautifully illustrated.
Beautiful. Hey, John. So I was reading ahead a minute ago. And I got to number 3.
Sure.
Excuse me, I have a question. What?
So number 3 is The Happening.
What? No.
The one with a twist. No, I didn't know what else. Trees. Yeah, I didn't know what else to put for this one, but again, we use on-screen reference for some of the ways to die.
Yeah.
And one of the ways to die.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, is when the speeder bike guys like run into the trees.
Dude, you gotta be more specific. We wrote the script together, but you kind of went off on your own to like put it into words.
Yes.
You gotta
watch out for the trees.
You gotta watch out for the trees.
Yeah, like
he looks back for a second, and all of a sudden, tree.
Yeah. Then exactly, like I mean,
those trees are coming out of nowhere.
I mean, because think about it, like if you're visiting a planet like this, you're you're vacationing, you're going for a good time, you're tempted to pull out the speeder bike or the fly ship and all this other stuff. Don't do it.
No.
First of all, don't go to other habitats and environments and ecosystems for your own entertainment. Don't disturb the bears for your fun time.
Yeah.
Leave the bears alone, Markiplier.
Leave Sasquatch alone.
But like, not only that, but like just the decency of leaving them alone, but for your own safety, because there's a lot of trees, and the likelihood of you hitting a tree, let me think, probably 99%.
Okay. Even just walking in a forest. I know I've talked about Tennessee a lot this episode, but like growing up going to camp in Tennessee / Kentucky, because it was on the state line, you could just be walking in front of you and look at someone, and all of a sudden you got a face full of tree.
Right, and
like, you got to pay attention.
Yeah, so you've got to be careful of the trees. You don't want to pull a Mark Wahlberg, and you just got to be careful.
You also got to be careful of a brother pulling back on a very flimsy tree,
exactly.
And then hitting you.
Even trees can be weaponized. So another less thought of, but reasonably scary reason to be avoiding Endor anytime soon is the trees. They will get you. Not quite last, but last reasonable one. Last one you can definitely guess. I would assume if you're playing along.
Yeah.
We've talked about the sentient species of the planet, but they aren't the only inhabitants.
No.
They aren't the only ones making up this planet. And so number 2 is just the general fauna of the planet, the beasties and the animals of the planet that are also very dangerous.
Yeah, like every animal on this planet could kill you, and probably will.
Yeah. Well. Oh yeah. Well.
It's like Australia. This is space Australia.
This is space Australia with more trees.
There's birds that can kick your teeth out.
Keep the Irwins away from this place. So with beasts like the blurgs, Boer Wolves, Condor dragons, Rakazak beasts, so many more. Take your pick, but there's so many options for death and maimage on this planet just by being in vicinity, essentially.
I'd like a Condor dragon, please.
They sound cool.
They sound dope.
Apparently, they're also part of the reason why the Ewoks live higher up in the trees is to kind of avoid those, like basically to live above your predators.
That's fair.
Actually, I want to say Tebow is the shaman of the Bright Tree Village. His skull ornament, yes, these freaking Care Bears have skull ornaments, is a Condor dragon, I want to say. So it's very interesting.
Isn't there a character in Dooku Jedi Lost that has a Condor dragon?
Oh, possibly. That's not in my Rolodex at the moment, so possibly.
We're aging ourselves so much this episode, too.
Boer Wolves. I mentioned earlier that they make weapons out of teeth. Boer Wolves' teeth are commonly used for weapons. Blurg, you would be familiar with these from Clone Wars and The Mandalorian. They are native to Endor. They can be found elsewhere and are farmed elsewhere, but they are native to Endor.
Like horses.
What's interesting is they are herbivores. They aren't meat eaters.
Yeah.
But they can chew through almost any material.
Like that guy who ate a car piece by piece.
Right. Like they can definitely chew through metal. If they can chew through metal, they can chew through you, and they are very viciously protective of their young. So, again, if you're heading there to farm you some blurg, just don't do it.
Don't.
Just
go even once.
Right. Go harvest some water on Tatooine or something. It's safer there. But even blurg are dangerous. And somehow, some way, these chubby little beasts can rival speeds of a speeder bike.
Yikes! They're the cassowary. They're the birds that can kick your teeth out.
Right. Like if you look up a picture of a blurg, if you don't know it offhand, like they're basically all leg.
They also look like very hard to ride.
Oh yeah, they are not like, easy rides.
They are orb.
Yes.
Orb is horse.
You definitely need a very good saddle for these things.
And a wingspan.
So yeah, there's a lot of fauna there that can just kill you just for being there. So if the environment doesn't get you, if the Ewoks don't get you, if the Gorax doesn't get you, if the trees don't get you, more than likely some kind of fauna that lives there might get you for sure.
Like I said, Space Australia.
Right.
Too easy.
So we talked a bit about what our number one would be. Again, not necessarily rating, but like what's probably a high fatal, also maybe a little unexpected way to die on Endor. We wanted to be interesting, and we've obviously. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of material to work with. We didn't actually add a lot to make this list. Like, a lot of it just comes from researching the planet, honestly.
Like, there's an insane amount of information on Endor.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's amazing.
So it gave us plenty of ways. But the one way it didn't mention, but definitely would happen, is number one, Death Star shrapnel.
Death Star shrapnel.
Death Star returns to the list yet again. It's been in quite a it's come up often.
Yeah.
But if you don't know, obviously in Return of the Jedi, the Death Star is in the Endor system and pretty near the Forest Moon, because the Forest Moon has a setup projecting an energy field around it, protecting it from invading ships and whatnot. Anybody trying to get in there and blow that thing up.
Hence Battle of Endor.
Exactly. So it's got to be close enough to project that shield generator. And if you watch The Rise of Skywalker, Kef Burr, who is in the system somewhere, but not necessarily like right there, a huge chunk of the Death Star landed on Kef Burr.
Yeah. Which makes you think, who made the dagger?
Some Sith acolyte, probably.
Probably.
So add on top of that, if you go back to the briefing room scene in Return of the Jedi and look at the beautiful imagery that Admiral Akbar created for his presentation, you see reference how big Endor is versus how big the Death Star is. The Death Star is much, much bigger than Endor.
Specifically the Death Star 2.
Yes.
Sorry, we keep forgetting.
It's huge. And a piece of it was able to fit on Kef Burr, which means that's huge. If that piece landed on Endor, half that planet would be gone.
Yeah.
More than likely, a lot of stuff hit that planet. Like, number one, never even mind that if it's that close, the explosion alone would screw up the atmosphere. If not entirely rip the atmosphere.
It could have, like, shifted the planet.
It could have altogether moved the planet out of orbit. Like, any number of ways that this happened, the Death Star itself would have actually destroyed a planet.
We thankfully have not experienced anything to this size of a catastrophe.
Oh, yeah. Like, think earthquakes. Like, I'd say tsunamis, but there's only a pond, apparently.
If the International Space Station exploded and started raining pieces down onto Earth, it wouldn't be that bad.
True. Now, the moon, though.
The moon.
Yeah.
Explode the moon. Oh, boy.
Yeah, but for better reference, it'd be like blowing up the Earth. That's going to affect the moon.
Yeah.
I mean, like, even just placing the Death Star there had to upset the gravitational pulls of the like. There's so many problems with the Death Star being in the system. So, the Death Star wins. The Death Star is the number one way to die on Endor, because when that thing shows up, either it's killing you, or when the farm boy blows it up, that's going to kill you.
Yeah.
But one way or another, that was no victory. That was no,
moon.
happy ending. All the Ewoks are dead. The planet's gone.
And it's your fault, Luke,
right?
Because you wanted to kiss your sister.
Clearly, we see Endor's still there. Endor does survive down into Tross, and so does Wicket and his newborn son. Not newborn, but his son.
It makes you think, how long is their lifespan?
Clearly pretty long.
Yeah.
I mean, if he was as young as Warwick was when he was playing, because Warwick was like 12. Wicket kind of seems to be played young.
Yeah.
Like a young Ewok. So more than likely he's probably about Warwick Davis's age.
Yeah.
That's why he's named after him. So, but as cute as Wicked is, and as much as their ally ship to the rebels was a good cause, don't be mistaken. The murder bears are still murder bears. The planet is still deadly, and you should find another place to visit for your summer vacation.
Yeah. Unless you want to deal with OSHA violations and just rampant.
Oh yeah,
rampant
just
words.
any 10 out of the probably many more ways you could die on this.
Yeah, you want to get kicked by a blurg. That's how you get kicked by a blurg.
So huge shout out to Star Wars Alien Archive and the Star Wars Complete Locations book, and also How Not to Get Eaten by Ewoks for some of the help for research. Awesome books you should definitely check out. If anything we mentioned is interesting to you, you can find some of that and more in those books. Others just come from being nerds, I guess. But overall, really fun doing these kinds of episodes. That's why we enjoy doing them and do them every now and then, just to keep things fun and whatnot. But hopefully you enjoyed. Let us know if you can think of another way to die on Endor. And let us know if you've got an idea for the next planet. Season 6 is around the corner, so we'll be looking for episode ideas to fill out the roster. Definitely going to have some 10 Ways episodes, so hit us up with some ideas you might have on that. Thank you to our patrons for helping us decide on what planet we would be visiting for this venture, and also just for being patrons and being awesome. You can give to Patreon, donate there, save a murder bear, donate to our Patreon.
Yeah.
For 10 easy payments of $9.99, you can make sure that Sarah McLachlan stays away from them. But also thank you to Red5 Network and GI Friends, two awesome networks of people, whether that be podcasters, gamers, streamers, cosplayers, all kinds of crazy people. Red5Network.com. Check out other cool podcasts, including ours. Their GI Friends. Check them out on Twitter at Game Infinite. Our buddy Jesse does a great job promoting awesome people there, so definitely go give them some love. We appreciate them. We appreciate you. You're still here. Don't go to Endor. You don't got to stay here, but you shouldn't go to Endor. Or do. I mean, you might. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if you want to get eaten by a Care Bear, what a way to go, Jimmy. But highly recommend that you follow us on social media to keep up with what's next. We're coming up to 2 years of podcasting, 5 seasons in the whole of episodes. So we're excited about what's next, and we're planning both the finale and launch of the next seasons. And so looking forward to that. So if you want to stay connected, see more madness and all that good stuff, definitely connect with us there.
All right.
Anything else?
Would you rather live in a treehouse with an Ewok or live in a Hobbit hole with a Hobbit?
Treehouse with an Ewok.
Hobbit.
Of course.
Well fed.
I'd be well fed by Ewoks.
You don't know what you're eating, though.
Meat. It's
indiscriminate meat, yes.
I mean, if I don't see where it came from, I'm not going to question.
And yet you can find a mushroom in your food from like a mile away.
Oh, yeah, I can spot those forever. So, yes, see you guys never, but talk to you in the next episode.
Well, we don't know never.
Well, maybe. I mean, if Celebration ever gets to happen.
We keep going on. Let's end it.
Yes. I have been your herd leader, John Wayne.
And I'm here too.
May the force be with you guys, and have a great day and week.
Bleh.